Well, welcome to part 2 of my top 10 favorite Elden Ring bosses. Because they're top 5, so these bosses really are amazing. I'm not saying that the previous 5 weren't, but this is really when it starts getting real good. So, let's continue with the best bosses. Number 5, and it's another dragon battle, and that's Dragon Lord Placidius Axe. Let's see that first. The entrance alone is awesome. So yes, Dragon Lord Placidius Axe is a best dragon battle in the entire Elden Ring, which says a lot considering that the dragon battles in Elden Ring are awesome. But yes, Dragon Lord Placidius Axe by far takes the cake. First, he looks so awesome, and he's definitely the biggest of all the dragons in the entire game. I also love his green and gold scales, and he's, as I said, by far the most awesome looking dragon in the entire game. I love how he has technically 3 heads, but only one at the same time, 2 ripped off, and then you can actually see like actual gold on his body. I love that, and the mechanics of the fight are just as splendid as the awesome looking boss himself. Like the way you slash at his body and all, and then avoid his attacks, and as I said, and just like with Lich Dragon Fortis Axe, learning to dodge his attacks is lots and lots of fun actually. And here I was lucky enough to stagger him actually, something that I haven't done on my previous tries. And he is pretty challenging too actually, like he's a little bit harder than Lich Dragon Fortis Axe, which is good. Now see, this is the attack that was the hardest one to dodge, but I learned to dodge it pretty easily later on actually. Dragon Lord Placidius Axe is just awesome, and the lore also is pretty interesting surrounding him. So yes, Dragon Lord Placidius Axe is definitely one of the best dragon battles ever, and the best dragon battle in Elden Ring. Let's enjoy it. I will also mention that this is in Farum Azula fought, and he fits the theme of Farum Azula just perfectly. He fits it perfectly well. And at number 4, and what type of boss list from software boss list will be complete without the final boss? But first, let's see again this awesome cutscene. Although to truly understand what's going on, you'd probably have to piece all the lore together you did while playing the game. Even I don't fully comprehend what's going on here. You really have to understand the lore. But basically, Queen Marika turns into Radagon. By the way, there are actually two final bosses, and I personally find both of them awesome. But let's talk about the first one first, obviously. Radagon has an Elden Ring inside his torso. Now, the battle with Radagon of the Golden Order is awesome, and it fits perfectly as a final boss of the game because he has very strong vibes of generally from software final bosses like Soul of Cinder, for example, in Dark Souls 3, or the guy from Dark Souls 1. I don't remember his name, but yeah, he gives me Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Yes, that's right. So yes, he gives me strong vibes of Dark Souls final bosses like Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, or Soul of Cinder from Dark Souls 3. Yes. And he deals very powerful attacks, but once you learn those attacks, you can actually learn to avoid them because it's all about learning and mastering the dodge. Like, yes, this battle is very much a dodge fest. Though some people can get greedy hitting like I often do. But as I said, this battle very much is about dodging and learning, and dodging at the right time too. And I also love where this battle is fought. It's fought basically inside. The battle is fought inside the Earth Tree itself, the very thing that the lore of the game largely revolves around. And the atmosphere is simply fantastic. And as I already said in the beginning, and I'll repeat it now, he very much feels like a classic From Software boss. Yes, this is very much in the veins of From Software. And look how he grabbed me now. Now, let's enjoy the end of this fight. Now, let's see an awesome cutscene of the true final boss, who is also pretty splendid. The Elden Beast. The Elden Beast is a very, very different sort of boss, but it's so fantastic, so incredible, and so very much fitting and very much justice to a super incredible game and the best game From Software has ever done. Because honestly, as much as I loved Radagon and think and would probably like him if he was just the only final boss, but honestly I feel following his battle with him, with a battle with a cosmic, otherworldly creature, like this truly gives this awesome game justice. Because said, Elden Beast is basically a otherworldly cosmic creature of unknown origins. And like, he looks so awesome, so angelic, but the origins are completely unknown. And plus the area, like you're almost transported to a totally different place and time, like almost like you're transported into outside of realm of Earth. Like, yeah, this is truly magnificent. And even mechanically, the battle is actually not that hard as always. It's about learning and mastering. Like, some people don't like running around the field and chasing the Elden Beast, but for some reason I kind of enjoyed it actually. Well, let's watch how this awesome battle concludes. And next three bosses are almost tied up. Like, all the three bosses I'm going to talk about now are super incredible and literally some of the best bosses in From Software history.
I dreamt for so long.
If not, maybe even the best, I don't know.
My flesh was
And this is
cold,
Malenia.
my blood
But first,
rotted.
let's enjoy the cutscene.
Corpse after corpse left in my wake. As I awaited his return.
What I love about Malenia, among other things, is that she's literally the
Heed
very
my words.
first character in Elden Ring that we ever saw.
Malenia,
Like, she was
Blade of
revealed
Nicola.
in the very first trailer, but none of us had any idea of who she was or that she was even going to be a boss, which turned out she is.
And I have never known.
And one of the greatest bosses in From Software history too. Malenia has a reputation for being the most difficult boss in Elden Ring, and she is pretty difficult, like especially when she hits you, her health bar returns. But the first phase, I'm actually going to as far as say that first phase is actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it and the mechanics. In fact, I've beaten her once in the first phase many times. Like, I learned the first phase pretty quickly and thought that if it wasn't for her health returning, she would actually be, I would even go as far as to say she would be too easy for such a late game boss. Really, it's the second phase that she really becomes difficult. Because, as I said, the first phase is just super easy. So, let's just see how easy she is now. Yeah, the waterfall dance, admittedly, is the most difficult part, but if you know how to avoid it, you can get a hang of it still. And see, I still had lots of crimson tears. Now, let's enjoy this cutscene of how she turns into her second phase And the second phase is really the part that really shines and really that moves her so high up on this list. Because the second phase is just so incredible.
The scarlet bloom flowers once more.
See how awesome she looks in the second phase? As somebody said, it's basically like a painting come to life. And I totally agree with that. I couldn't describe this better than, yeah, a painting come to life. Maybe I will add, like, more specifically, like a Renaissance painting come to life. Because literally, in this second phase, you literally feel like you are fighting inside a Renaissance painting. Just look at it. Yeah, she starts the phase with a attack that you have to dodge, but it's actually pretty easy to dodge for some reason. Though later, this is when she starts getting really difficult. Like, see, now the waterfall dance is actually much harder to dodge, even though I dodged here pretty easily. But you know what I mean. And yes, literally, as I already said, you totally feels like you fight inside a Renaissance painting. It's so impressive and incredible. And the area around it matches it so perfectly. Yeah, I just love this boss battle so much. And even though many people say this fight is is the most difficult battle in From Software history, which I partially agree. Actually, I fully agree, but at the same time, it's actually fairly well balanced. Once you get a hang of it and learn all the moves, the battle is pretty manageable. Although there are still some attacks you have to watch out for, like the clone attack, for example, that Malenia uses a couple of times in her second phase that I have not recorded here. Let's just see the end of this awesome, incredible fight. And gone.
The mark of a true lord.
Number 2, and that's the boss I've talked about in my Elden Ring review video and said you get a small glimpse of him, and it's Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. Like, you only saw a small glimpse, you haven't seen the true awesomeness of this fight, which starts in the second phase. But before we get into talking how awesome this fight is, let's enjoy this cutscene. He looks so awesome, so incredible. I say he literally has the most fantastic design in From Software history, and I believe From Software enemies and bosses have literally the best physical designs of any enemies in video games. In other words, he possibly has the most fantastic boss physical design in gaming history, and definitely one of the best designed looking villains I've ever seen, among likes of Davy Jones and some of the other villains I love. If this video was in terms of physical appearance alone, this guy would by far be number one. And the fight is also really amazing. Like, he's kind of a gimmick boss, like Ehorm the Giant in Dark Souls 3. Except that this time the gimmick is done super well, because Ehorm the Giant, as a result of a gimmick, he was way too easy. You just used the blade a couple of times and he was gone. And with this guy, the gimmick is he's actually pretty challenging despite of a gimmick. He has more health than Ehorm, and he can actually deal a powerful attacks that easily defeat you. So yeah, this is a perfect example of how to do a gimmick boss fight. And the area full of lava is just so fantastic and so amazing too, like the background. Everything in design is amazing. As I said, in terms of physical appearance, this guy is by far the best one. And I was almost tempted to put him at number one actually, but because my number one has some other things I love, this guy ultimately is number two, but he was almost number one because he's just so incredible, so amazing. And he's gone. And my favorite Elden Ring boss is by far Mohg, Lord of Blood. Let's see this cutscene for a little bit first. Mohg, Lord of Blood is just amazing in every single way. The lore behind him, for example, is super incredible and so disturbing, like you see on this cutscene. Basically, he kidnapped Mikola as a kid, used as his concert, which is so disturbing. Like, honestly, and when you fight him, you actually take pleasure in taking him down, because he's by far one of the most evil characters From Software ever created. So that already makes him a super amazing boss.
Of our dynasty.
And he actually gets used twice, like many bosses in Elden Ring, but in his case it makes perfect sense, and I absolutely do not mind that one bit. It makes perfect sense both lore-wise and gameplay-wise. Lore-wise, he basically left a projection of himself to guard something, and it makes perfect sense. And gameplay-wise, it's basically to prepare you for an actual battle with him, which is much harder than this. And now onto the actual battle. Like, the battle with Mohg, Lord of Blood, is just so amazing, so incredible. First, he looks awesome. Like, he looks basically like medieval descriptions of Satan. Like, he's so big and dressed in a priest's robe, but it's very much, it feels like he's from hell, literally. Yes. And the themes around this fight are also so amazing. The cathedral you fight with him looks so impressive, for example. And then he puts a spell on you and starts counting in Latin, which further adds to the themes of his boss battle. I love that so much, especially that I love Latin language. I've been a couple times to Latin Mass, actually. It's very interesting language. My grandfather was a professor of Latin. And the second phase of this fight, now you see, is actually much harder than the first. It's actually one of the most difficult battles in the game, and I'm not going to lie, I raged a couple of times while fighting him, but once I beaten him, I was so satisfied, because Mog, Lord of Blood, as I said, he's one of the best bosses in From Software history, and my personal favorite boss battle in Elden Ring. As I said, everything is amazing. The music, the themes, the appearance, and even the mechanics of the battle. Mog, Lord of Blood, is by far my favorite boss in Elden Ring, which says a lot considering how much awesome bosses Elden Ring does in general. I love Mog, Lord of Blood, and he's also probably the most evil character in Elden Ring. Okay, so those are my top 10 favorite bosses in Elden Ring. As you already know, Elden Ring has incredible boss battles, as do all the From Software games in general. And as I said, I am totally considering doing top 10 favorite boss battles of other From Software games, but as I said, sadly it won't be anytime soon. But I'm totally considering making those other videos. And also what I'm going to say, I again can't wait for the Elden Ring DLC, and we'll see what type of bosses DLC will bring us. I will very likely and hopefully have to redo the video with the DLC bosses included, because honestly, let's hope the DLC bosses will possibly even top all the bosses in the main game. Yeah. So thank you for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later, bye!